Morning, everybody. It is a little after 10 a.m. here in Pennsylvania, where I am, and also in northern New York, where Michelle is. Hi, everybody. It is so good to see you all. I see in the chat people are here from all over the place, from very snowy places in western Pennsylvania and Ann Arbor and Charlottesville. I don't think it's snowing. Sammy, thank you for joining us from London. You guys, it has been a crazy week. And then I went to bed last night at about 9:30, which I was so happy to do because it's been a crazy just Thanksgiving. I feel like, Michelle, I don't know. Do you feel like you're rested on this weekend?
No, not even close. Really, I mean, just genuinely not even close. I don't say that like in a complaining way. I say it in a way that it's like, if you look away for even a moment, you will miss very, very consequential pieces of information and stories and news. And, I think the average person would say, it's okay. It's okay. I mean, obviously, because of what it is that we do, we kind of have to know what the hell's going on. But also, like, just as Americans, I feel like these stories that have dropped this week are bananas.
Bananas. I mean, listen, I go to Philadelphia. So I live in New York, but I think people here know on weekends and holidays and stuff, we have a house in Eastern Pennsylvania. But it's not far from Philadelphia, but we never go to Philly because we never go to Philly.
Yeah.
So my cousin from France was visiting us and still is visiting us, which is awesome. And he's leaving today and I'm so sad. But he's never been to Philadelphia. I had not been to Philadelphia in
Philadelphia freedom.
Yeah, Philadelphia freedom. Anyway, so I had never been to Philly.
I love Philadelphia. It's a beautiful old-ass city. I love it.
So we decide we're going to go to Philadelphia. And we park the car right where the Liberty Bell is, which, yes, what's the point of the Liberty Bell? Can somebody please explain? Because it has nothing to do with American history. It just is a bell that showed up here and somebody turned it the Liberty Bell. It's not like they rang it on the 4th of July. Anyway, there's a line to go see the Liberty Bell. My husband apparently has this scam that he knew about. I don't know where he's been hanging out in Philadelphia, how he knew about this, but there's some backdoor way you could see the Liberty Bell without waiting online. So we saw it. Yeah.
I know about this. Yeah.
Yeah. So we saw it and great. It's a bell.
It takes a lot to impress Julie, guys.
It's not that. It's like, whatever. It's a bell. Great. Like, I had no significance in history. Like, if it had some significance where people rang the bell because there was
right. Like Benjamin Franklin, like lived inside the bell.
It's just a bell. Great. Okay. Yeah. So, and I'm, me, I'm all about the history. Like, I love that stuff. But I go to, by the way, people from London, I go to London. And then whenever I take somebody to London with me who's not as well, who's never lived in London like I did and doesn't know London, we go to the Tower of London and the Beefeaters give the tour. And I, in my mind, correct the Beefeaters. So I'm that annoying effing person who
you're like the backseat driver of tourists.
You don't want to watch any historical movies with me. You especially don't want to watch the Tudors miniseries with me because I'm that person. So when I tell you there's no points to the Liberty Bell, there's no points to the Liberty Bell. Anyway, we go to Philly, we go see the stupid Liberty Bell, and then we're like, okay, what do we do now? And so we start walking around the city, and it is gorgeous. It is such a great town. I can't even tell you. I don't know why everybody talks about
a legit city too. It's like, because I think as New Yorkers, I think sometimes we forget about Philadelphia, not because it doesn't matter, just because it's like right there. You know what I mean? Like you could commute like to school or work in Philadelphia. Sometimes I feel like it would take less time for me to get to Philadelphia than it would parts of Brooklyn. You know what I mean? But it's old and it's steeped in history and it's like just lovely and the people are really nice. I've been there a couple times recently. I was there for the first No Kings March. I was there at Philadelphia, and then I was there for the night before the election last year for Kamala Harris's last rally. That was something else. But yeah, I mean, it's just every time I'm there, I have a lovely time. It's great.
Yeah, it's awesome. So I've been to Philly for like stuff, right? For work stuff, like the Democratic Convention in 2016. And then I had to go, my colleague Gretchen Carlson and my nonprofit Lift Our Voices was getting honored. So we went, she was getting honored at something
nice.
Hall. So I took the train to Constitution Hall, but I hadn't walked around Philly in probably 15 years, if not longer. Yeah. And I've forgotten what a great town it is. And for all that everybody talks about how Boston preserves its pre-revolutionary history, Philly does a better job.
Yeah.
the houses are amazing. You have
Yeah,
these
really, really beautiful. They're like row houses. Is that what they are?
yeah, they're like townhouses, and they're
They're
these
townhouses. Yeah.
Federalist townhouses in Society Hills. We walked through that. Anyway, it was amazing. The point is, I go to Philly, and my family's like, "Can you put away the phone? Because enough already with your stupid, like, you need a break." So I agreed to put away the phone. And sure enough, Michelle is texting me really relevant stuff that was going on about us going to war in Venezuela. Like, I can't even walk around Philly for 5 minutes without us going to war in Venezuela yesterday.
Yeah, it's real. It's
Yeah,
real.
it's
And
real.
it's, well, okay, so there's a couple big stories that dropped. We don't have to talk about them right away, but so there was a story yesterday, and if you haven't watched already, please go onto our channel and watch the conversation I had with retired Lieutenant Colonel Urso about the Washington Post reporting that Pete Hegseth gave a verbal order to the U.S. military to kill everyone on board on September 2nd, that first strike on a Venezuelan fishing boat, or what they say it is, a narco boat. We don't really know.
Even if it is.
Even if it is, like, it doesn't matter because it is in violation of international laws. It's in violation of domestic laws. So, and there were 2 survivors still hanging on the side of the boat, hanging on for their lives, quite literally. And Pete Hegseth gave a verbal order: kill everyone, kill everyone. So we talked about that for about an hour yesterday around, I think it was like 4:30 or so. And then let's see, last night, Katie Miller, who's Stephen Miller's obnoxious, horrible wife, was platformed on Abby Phillips' show last night on CNN. So then there was that. And then later that evening, the Wall Street Journal dropped a mind-blowing, incredibly sourced piece of reporting about this peace deal that really isn't a peace deal. It's all about how many people in Trump's orbit can get rich off of giving away parts of Ukraine to Russia.
You guys, I am writing a Substack on this today. I was going to take the day off today because, I was gonna, but I didn't. I got to tell you, I'll just cut to the chase here, and you could read it if you want. But the beauty of what we do here is I just give it to you for free rather than you having to subscribe to my Substack. This is what the Wall Street Journal reported today. And for people who don't get the Wall Street Journal, and it's very expensive and there's a paywall. And so I fully appreciate why people may not subscribe. So I will cut to the chase on that one too. The Wall Street Journal reported that Steve Witkoff, Jared Kushner, ExxonMobil, and friends of Donald Trump Jr., like people he went to college with, like random friends of his, are all in on this deal to effectively sell out Ukraine. Our Western allies, the Pax Americana, the vast majority of Americans who support Ukraine, and every other basically freedom fighting nation on earth, from Taiwan to others who live in the shadow of a much more powerful autocratic neighbor, because Putin has been dangling untold riches in front of them, that they can get parts of the mineral deals, they could get parts of oil development. ExxonMobil can acquire or partner with Lukoil, which is Russia's second largest oil company. And effectively, they can go make money in exchange for this 28-point peace plan that was leaked, that effectively gives Russia even more than it's already acquired on the battlefield. It basically gives them a good third of Ukraine. And I think there's 2 things here that the Wall Street Journal did not delve into. They just told the story, and it was like the facts are the facts. One is the effect that this is going to have on the rest of the world. This is truly the equivalent. This is not a crazy analogy. This is truly the best analogy I could come up with. It is an apples to apples analogy. Could you imagine in September of forget September. Could you imagine in, I don't know, August of 1941, before the United States entered the war, after Poland had been taken over, and after the British and the French have been fighting already with the Russians, Freudian slip, with the Germans, if Franklin Roosevelt had said to Hitler, hey, I'm going to let you keep Poland. No worries. I'm not going to supply the British and the French with Lend-Lease. I'm not going to give them any arms. I'm not going to give them anything. I'm going to tell them to back off and let you keep Poland and anything else that you have already grabbed. In exchange for my Roosevelt family, my kid, Kermit, or whatever his son's name was, I think it was Kermit, getting a piece of the action in Germany. You letting the Roosevelt family and our buddies come and get a piece of whatever action you have in Germany. That is what is happening. That is what is happening.
Yep.
And the stupidest part of this, in addition to the fact that this absolutely makes us partner with the bad guys, the Europeans will never trust us again. This is going to affect the United States and our standing in the world for the rest of our life. Even if Donald Trump leaves tomorrow, that's it. Nobody will ever trust us again because we have now proven that we would allow somebody like this to come to power. Mm-hmm. The part that they don't understand, because they have no concept of Russian history, and it's not even history, it is recent history. It is history from the 90s. It is 30-year-old history, not even. Is that this is exactly what happened. The United States and a bunch of Americans came into Russia after the Soviet Union collapsed and made a shitload of money. And then Putin came in and threw them all out, seized all their assets, nationalized all of the shit that they were invested in. And they all basically fled for their lives. That is what's going to happen again, you complete and utter morons. Because the minute Donald Trump is out of office, does Donald Trump Jr. and his little buddies think that Trump is going to, Putin's just going to allow them to keep making money? They're going to be.
They do think this. I mean, that's the thing. I don't
think they're ever leaving.
Right. There's the part of we're never leaving, and then there's the other part that's, even if my dad dies, it's going to be JD Vance or somebody else, and they're going to take care of me. And or it's just being dumb and then feeling invincible, because these people act as though, here's the thing is that Donald Trump once said, right, I could shoot people on Fifth Avenue and I wouldn't lose any votes. And he's true. That's true. He was right. Unfortunately, didn't seem right at the time, but it has turned out to be true. But the Donald Trump Juniors of the world do not have that kind of following, nor does JD Vance, nor do any of these people. And that's where I think that they're sorely, sorely misjudging, and they are mistaking this moment. They're making very bad choices. And I just want to throw this up here, this reporting from the Wall Street Journal. I have the whole article here if there's any part of it you want me to pull out, but
I mean, I summarize it, but it's yeah. By the way, the shocking part about this, Michelle, is not like Wyckoff and others are not commenting on this. They're like, yeah, this is what's happening. Yeah.
Out in the open. I mean, that's the strategy of this administration, always has been, is like, let's just do everything out in the open. And then we don't have to waste any energy or resources trying to hide behind it. And then eventually people will give up and then they'll get distracted with something else.
Yeah. And
I do want to give a shout out to these reporters at the Wall Street Journal for doing this reporting. Drew Hinshaw, Benoit Falcon, I'm murdering this name, I'm sure. Benoit Falcon, Rebecca Ballhaus, Thomas Grove, and Joe Parkinson. Go follow them on Twitter and other platforms. I always want to give these reporters, a shout out for doing, especially at working at a place like the Wall Street Journal and doing a story. Whoops.
Where'd you go, Michelle? Oh, there you go.
I don't know where I went.
What's very interesting about this, again, the journal kind of touched on, but didn't, I don't know if it was cut.
Yeah. And maybe there'll be a follow-up. Maybe this is to set the stage. You know what I mean?
But I will follow up, because what I want to say is that they touched briefly on the Alaska summit.
Right.
And where this was basically all cut. And they talked about how Putin, they canceled a lunch and they canceled all this stuff because Putin went into this history, as he did with Tucker Carlson,
right,
on the 1,000-year history between Ukraine and Russia and how Ukraine doesn't really exist. And like he did this on Tucker Carlson's. Remember when Tucker Carlson interviewed him too? He went into this diatribe for hours about the history of
It's
Russia.
like filibustering with history lessons.
Ukraine.
Yeah.
And what you have to understand is, if you know, first of all, he's 100% making a lot of this history up. So
Of course.
preface with that. But if you actually sat through that interminable Tucker Carlson interview, as I did, and you listened to what he said about the history of Russia and Ukraine, as unfortunately I did, if that is where he's coming from, he's not stopping at what he's getting now, and he's not stopping at Ukraine.
No.
Because
Appeasement.
if he's talking about Rus, which is it's the old kind of Russian name for Russia. That
like Ruski, like when they call people Ruskis, is that what like the
no, Ruski is a Russian word for Russian.
It is, but Rus
yeah.
is what they would
Rus,
okay.
Kiev and Rus is trying to think. It's like calling France Gaul.
Oh, I
Right.
see. Okay. Yeah. No, I wasn't sure. I just wanted
Yeah,
to
it's like referring to France as Gaul. It's like the old
Okay. Got it.
term for what Russia was before it was, Russia as we know it.
Got it.
But if he's talking about those imperial ambitions, if he's talking about what Russia had at any point during the Russian Empire, it is a lot more than what they have right now. It is the entire Soviet Union. It is Poland. It is Finland. It is parts of Sweden.
Yeah.
I mean, if that's what we're talking about here, and that's the history lesson that he's imparting, that should say to everyone,
he's telling us that.
he's telling us what he's going to do. And these idiots are too stupid, or maybe they don't care.
Or they're underestimating. I think that there's this other piece of like, well, he's not really going to do that. And I'm like, well, who's going to stop him? Because it would be the Western Alliance or the United States or NATO that would be the NATO countries that would step in and do something about this. But they cannot count on the United States of America anymore. And because we have Russian assets inside the administration. And, again, like we all know this about Vladimir Putin, is that it's been his dream to reinstate the Soviet Union.
He said that the biggest political tragedy of the 20th century was the dissolution of the Soviet Union. That is what he thinks. Now, Ukraine is not in NATO, but other former Soviet republics are, namely Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia, the Baltics.
Right.
And if we start with just the Soviet Union, we're talking about the fact that he is going to seize those three countries. We hate, when I tell you, I had a friend when I was growing up who was very interesting. I had two friends. My best friend, her mother was Finnish. And my other very close friend, her parents were Latvian. Randomly by sheer coincidence in New Jersey, right? That's where they came from. Both of their parents were so suspicious of me purely because I was Russian until they figured out like I wasn't.
Yeah. And what year was this?
This was like the 80s.
Okay.
But because the Finnish mother had remembered, because she was older, the war against the Russians when she was a little girl, the Finnish War, the 1940 war, when the Russians, while everybody else was looking at what Hitler was doing, the Russians decided that was an opportunity to try to seize Finland again. The Finns hate the Russians. They hate them as only people who've been oppressed by them can.
Yeah.
And then the Latvians, I cannot even begin to tell you that they would rather have gone. I mean, they rather would have like gone with the Nazis than with the Russians. That's how much they hate the Russians. They hate the Russians. Understandably so. Same with Germany. Same with Poland. When I went to Poland, I think I told you the story. I went to Poland maybe about.
Yeah. Oh, right. And you were on your phone talking to your mom.
I was on my phone talking to my mom, and I was like, screech, and literally, like the whole restaurant shut down because they heard people speaking Russian. Like they hate the Russians.
Yeah.
And the Ukrainians hate the Russians. This is not a conceptual thing for them. Like, oh, okay, like we're gonna now live under Russia. Like this is existential for them. They hate them.
Well, the thing that's crazy, Julie, is like having been born in the United States and only conscious for probably half the 80s, if that. I was born in the early 80s. I do remember it was like you didn't like the Russians. Like there was so much Russian propaganda or anti-Russian propaganda, like just embedded into the American narrative, into our film and television, and like everything was, you don't like Russia, we don't like Russia. And then, obviously the collapse of the Soviet Union like kind of changed that, but somehow it's like Trump and the Republicans have completely shifted that narrative in the last 10 years. And this is where, Ronald Reagan is some sort of like Republican hero, which is not something I've ever personally understood. But if you are a conservative and you did come of age during, that's someone,
my dog going nuts. But go ahead.
And that's something that you cared about, and that's someone you looked up to, like whatever, for each their own. But like you have, this is where the former Republicans of that era, right, that have now come out against Trump are just, horrified beyond measure, because, there was something we called it at LP. They were called, it was like Red Dawn Republicans or something like that. And it was like people who came of age during the Cold War, Gen Xers, right? Yeah. Gen Xers who understood and who understand. And it just seems as though it's doesn't matter anymore. And there are more Russian spies living in the United States now than there were in the 80s and the 70s. And it's and this is where, again,
we're
guys,
gonna do a show, by the way, we're going to do the American Rewatch. We're going to do that starting in January.
Yep.
Get ready. Like, I forgot where you can download it. Is it Hulu, Netflix? I don't even
know. Because it originally aired on FX, so I think you can also watch it on Disney Plus. There's like a few different platforms you can watch it. I wish that it was free, and so I apologize for that, not having full access to that. But we are going to rewatch The Americans. Talk about it in context of what was actually going on. And just so people, if you don't know this, we've talked about it a couple times, is that Julie came to the United States as a refugee almost at the exact same time that the timeline of The Americans, the TV show, begins, which is right after Reagan's inauguration.
And to my knowledge, my parents were not sleeper.
It's so crazy too. It's like, I keep thinking about that Argentine.
I can't. I have thought about that. I have not stopped thinking about that.
I was revisiting that story just last night. I think it's because one of these journalists who reported on this in the Wall Street Journal, like, wrote about that, or like there was some, because I went to all their Twitter accounts, and this was like a pinned tweet at the top, and it was something that they had reported on, and how this little girl was about to start 6th grade. And they get picked up and they're sent on a CIA plane or whatever, and then Vladimir Putin is standing at the bottom of the stairs, like handing her flowers. She doesn't even know.
So do you guys remember this? This is a couple that was arrested, I believe, in Slovenia or the Czech Republic or somewhere in Eastern Europe.
Yeah.
They were nominally Argentinians, and they spoke Spanish at home. Their kids were born, I think, in Argentina or somewhere in South Africa. I think it was Argentina. The kids thought, they were Argentinian, that they had moved to wherever, Prague, or no, I think it was Slovenia, for either Slovenia or Slovakia. I forgot which one. But anyway, they moved to wherever in Eastern Europe because they wanted to, for business reasons, for their parents. The kids were just adjusting to their new school in a totally different country. They spoke Spanish at home. The kids were convinced that they were Argentinian. Then the mom gets arrested, and maybe the dad too. Mm-hmm. And they're like, what the hell is going on? I think the kids go into foster care for a while. They don't understand what's happening.
Right.
All of a sudden, they get put on a plane. It's not a CIA plane. It's a Russian plane, I believe.
Oh, I thought it was a CIA plane.
I think it was a Russian plane. I think it was
my bad.
Doesn't matter, whatever plane it was. And they're flown not too far. It's probably an hour or two from wherever they were in Eastern Europe to Moscow, where they get off the plane and they're greeted with flowers by Vladimir Putin, as the mother is crying and hugging Vladimir Putin. And it is only on that flight from wherever they were in Eastern Europe, I'm going to say it's Slovenia just to make it less complicated, to Moscow, that they were told, which is, again, a very short flight, they don't have much time to absorb this, that no, in fact, they're not Argentinian, that everything they knew about their parents was a complete lie. The parents were Russian spies who were part of the illegals program.
Right. Which read that book.
Yeah, read that book. Who were sent to Argentina to pose as Argentinians were then fluent in Spanish because that's how they were trained, fluent in whatever you have to know to be Argentinian. You know, if in America it would be like Mickey Mantle's, number or something, like all the little things you have to know, which I actually don't know. But all the little things you have to know to be American, right? They learned that about Argentina. The kids now are living, presumably in Moscow with their mom and dad, having never heard a word of Russian.
Don't even know they're Russian.
Don't even know they're Russian. And all I could think about is, how do you ever try? Like,
oh God, no, broken for the rest of their lives.
Broken for the rest of your life. You can't trust it. Think about when this. I think there's a little girl here. Think about when this little girl grows up, and she meets some guy. She'll never trust him.
Oh God, no. You're always looking.
Like, listen, Michelle and I are both. You and I are both very happily married, right? Like, I trust my husband. You trust your husband. Like, that is the key to a successful marriage. And you don't ever trust. You can't. How do you ever trust? If you can't trust your mom and dad on the fundamentals of who they are, where they came from, and who you are, how are you ever going to trust anybody?
I don't know that there's any amount of therapy that really gets you over that.
I don't think Russians are into therapy anyway.
Then there's that. Just somebody asked in the chat, what's the book? I just want to throw this up here.
Oh yeah,
this is the book, The Illegals. It's by Sean Walker. The second line here is Russia's most audacious spies and their century-long mission to infiltrate the West. It reads like a spy novel, but it's all true. And it especially if you have watched The Americans, and so you have that kind of dramatization reference in your mind to kind of place all of this. It is, when I tell you, when I started it this summer, I was sitting on the beach, somewhere out in Long Island or something. And I picked up the book and I started reading, and I was just like immediately captivated. 10 pages in, I'm telling you, like, pick up a copy, find it on your Kindle, whatever, read it. You will not be sorry that you did. I promise you. It's one of those things that I just don't know that Americans can really truly comprehend, like internally in our bones, like to want to serve your country in such a way, to the motherland, devote your entire life and existence to the motherland in that kind of way. It's almost like suffering is,
well, that's part of the Russian.
Right. It's like suffering is something to be proud of. Right. Am I wrong here? Or it's just part of like being part of Russia, or I don't know. Like, it just kind of seems like that just from an outsider like myself. I don't know.
I think the Russian psyche is very different from the American psyche, which is why it's important to understand it. If you understand, you have to understand where Russians come from in order to be able to understand what is going on right now. The Russian psyche is basically like, they don't live in comfort, or at least I should say, let me amend. As far as I know, I have not been there many years. It is a different country from the one I left, but until 1980, when I left, from all the generations before, this was the Russian psyche. I can't imagine they've turned on a dime so much in the last, 50 years, but maybe 5 years. It is that it's basically very Hobbesian, right? Like, life is brutish, nasty, and short. And there are things in life that are greater than yourself. The country is greater than yourself. So the sacrifice to the country is worth it. Yes, that Lenin was more important than bread.
Yep. Yeah.
Lenin it was an empire. It was Lenin, and Lenin had been dead for a really long time at that point. I don't know, by the way, whether she really believed it or whether she said it because she would have gotten in trouble if I went to kindergarten and said, something different.
And I just want to bring this up again, just because there was a few comments in the chat, if I'm understanding correctly. Just so The Illegals means, it's like The Illegals is the name of the program, the Russian spy program. It's not like The Illegals in the way that Stephen Miller and Donald Trump say the word illegal. This is completely different. Like, this is the name of the program of the Russians in trying to infiltrate the West for literally the last 100 years. So just wanted to.
Yeah, I'm going to tell a really quick story, and then we can move on from this. I don't need to believe I don't need to be Vladimir Putin to tell you the 1,000-year history of Kiev and Rus here. But my mother tells this incredible story, and I've heard it my whole life, where when she was a little girl, she and my grandmother went to Stalin's funeral.
Mm.
1953, I want to say. So my mother, I think it was 53.
Wow.
My mother she was born in 46, so 7, right? She and my grandmother go. And to put in perspective, my grandmother's father had been shot on Stalin's personal orders because my great-grandfather was very close to Trotsky. And he was one of the original Bolsheviks, had known Lenin, had been very close to Trotsky. And so when he moved on Trotsky, he also moved on, who was in Mexico at the time with the ice pick in his head. He also moved on all the old Trotskyites who were still in Russia, even though none of them had seen Trotsky for years and were not involved anymore and were loyal Soviets. It didn't matter.
Right.
My grandfather got a tip off from somebody that they were coming for him. He decided to protect his own family. He was going to the east. He flew to Siberia. They caught up with him there. They found him. They executed him. My grandmother and her brothers and sisters had no idea what happened to their father until I think really in the 80s when somehow my grandmother went and saw the archives and saw what happened.
Oh my gosh.
But it doesn't matter. They knew that he had died because of Stalin. Every family in Russia, every single one in the Soviet Union had somebody who had been executed or sent to the Gulag because of Stalin. Like every single one. And some of them had entire parts of their families wiped out. I mean, you never knew when the knock on the door was going to come. And still, my mother says they went to the funeral and everybody was sobbing and devastated that this man, this father of the nation who had caused so much horror for every single person who had been at that funeral, they were sobbing and crying. And there was such a stampede that my mother said she almost got trampled to death. She said it was a miracle that she lived. There was such a stampede towards the funeral cortege or wherever it was that they were. Yeah. So I say this to say that they are conditioned very much.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's like they don't know anything else. Like
they've always been conditioned to have a strong leader.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter what kind of leader he is as long as he's strong. They've always been conditioned to have somebody who be like almost like the father of the nation, which is what Putin is.
Mm-hmm.
And I think to some extent, and this is really important to kind of note, they're not individualistic. It's not like what's best for Michelle, what's best for Julie. When it comes to like the rest of us, like money or whatever else, but not for the larger, greater thing. Same with art, right? Like, say if you read Russian literature, if you read Dostoevsky or read Tolstoy or anything else, it's very much all about. It's not individualistic. It's all about like whatever. They very much respect art. They very much respect music. That's why they have such a great. Or used to have such a culture, even during the oppressive, times during the Soviet Union and also during the Russian Empire, you had the most incredible literature. I mean, whether it was Dostoevsky, whether it was Tolstoy.
From great suffering, usually.
All derived from suffering, if you've ever read Russian literature.
Right.
Same with Russian music. Tchaikovsky and Prokofiev, people, like half of them, not Tchaikovsky, that was during the Tsarist times, but the Soviet ones, the great ones, some of them were sent to the Gulag. Some of them were just killed. Some of them were just broken. They had been so oppressed that they had nervous breakdowns or were broken. And it didn't matter because it was still for the good of the state.
Yeah.
And I think we in the United States who are very comfortable and have not lived under affliction in our lifetime ever, have never had rations, have never had to wait online. Like I remember as a little girl, you would just get on a line. You didn't know what you were getting on a line for, but you just got on a line and hoped that at the end of the line, there was something there to buy.
Right.
You just did it. It was just how it was. And so I think we don't get that. And that's what right now Trump, and I'm sorry to give this history lesson, but I think that right now the reason Trump is being played so hard by Putin is because he gets what Trump is about.
Individualistic. I mean, that is like in his.
What is good for me?
Every cell.
What is good for me?
Yeah.
Not what's good for the country.
Mm-hmm.
And while Putin is raping and pillaging every part of Russia and is the richest man in the world right now because he literally has a vig on everything that happens.
Yeah.
Still, he's doing this in his mind, not to get rich himself, although he's going to get he's very rich, but he's doing this because of what he thinks is good for Russia. And what is good for Russia in his mind is a reconstitution of the former Soviet Union, but more than that, a reconstitution of the Russian Empire at its most extreme borders, which includes, as I said, most of NATO's eastern flank.
Yeah. Wow.
Somebody here in the chat says you're a Russophobe, just as I thought. Oh, sweetheart,
Who?
I'm
Oh,
Russian.
This is
I'm
like, yeah.
I'm not a Russophobe. I just want
Yeah,
the country to
we're
go, I just want Russia to go back to being the great country it can be and not run by.
We're just gonna get rid of that.
We're going to get rid of that person.
So, and also just on that note, a bunch of people wrote in saying that they want to be moderators, and I saw them. I just have to figure out how to do it, and then once I figure out how to do it, I'm going to make you moderators, so I don't have to wait. Julie and I don't have to keep our eye out for that kind of stuff all the time. You know, it's funny too. The Russian stuff too. I was remembering. I was like Russian theater, and I was like, oh, one of my first books that we had to read in college was Stanislavski, which is like a technique of acting, right? And it's just it's kind of like embodying characters, who, what, when, why, how, you know, all that kind of. So to believe it is what it is that you're doing, just, you know. And I think it was published in like the 30s or something like that, which is kind of funny too. But anyways, I don't think a lot of us even realize how much Russian culture is really steeped also into what we do here in the United States as artists too. It's kind of fascinating. And then of course now here we are in 2025, and Vladimir Putin is essentially buying his way into the rest of the world through the Americans. And it's just, this is why, like, looking at this thing in the Wall Street Journal is just, you know, these pictures there. I don't know if I have any of the pictures here. I don't know that I do, but it was just it's unbelievable. It is unbelievable. It is unbelievable. It is.
It's oh
yeah.
It's embarrassing. It is embarrassing right now that we are being represented by this guy.
Oh yeah, it's horrifying.
Like, how's the price of eggs working out for you people? And
cognitive dissonance is a hell of a drug.
Yeah, and I've got to say, it's just amazing. And here you said, you know, Jane from Pittsburgh, Russia's brutal treatment of Ukraine has caused me to truly dislike Russia. You know what? Think about the Ukrainians. Stalin, speaking of Stalin, instituted something called the Holodomor. The Holodomor was a forced starvation of Ukrainians. Ukraine was the breadbasket of the Soviet Union because it's got all this great agriculture. It was grains, like that's where grain would come from. In order to privatize, to nationalize all of it, he had to break the backs of the kulaks, who are these private farmers. He instituted a famine. Tens of millions of people died. That was one of the great geopolitical tragedies of the, I wouldn't, tens of millions. Was it tens of millions? I think it was.
Maybe.
Geopolitical tragedy of the 20th century. That all took place in Ukraine.
Well, like, and let's also not forget, and I don't want to go down this path because it's Saturday and we'll talk about this another time, is all of the Ukrainian children who have been kidnapped and sent to Russia and rehoused and are now being indoctrinated after and trafficked after being completely and utterly separated from their families, perhaps forever.
Hundreds of, sorry, it wasn't tens of millions. I'm sorry, it was 5 million.
Okay.
So I just looked it up, but it's worse that they're being re-educated and indoctrinated. They're being sent to the front to fight against Ukraine.
Yeah.
Child soldiers are being forcefully sent to the front to fight the minute they turn 16 to fight against their own country.
Yeah.
And they're dying on behalf of Russia against our country.
Yep.
It is. And when we cut this deal, this little 28-point plan, they weren't part of it. It wasn't like, let's repatriate.
Right. And that's the other part of this. I'm like, oh, we're going to give Ukraine. Ukraine's not ours. It's not ours to give. Right. It's not our. And so this is where I'm like,
Europeans. That's the part, Michelle. We've cut out the Europeans. There's this thing in the Wall Street Journal where
can't the Europeans step? I mean, am I just being naive here? Like, why can't the Europeans step in and like cut us out?
Well, they can. The problem is that would be the collapse of NATO. We have the advanced military hardware. They don't. And they can, but I don't know how long Ukraine can keep going without us.
Right.
And
also the chief of the chief of staff, Zelensky's chief of staff resigned yesterday. So there's a big
for the corruption probe or something. Yeah. But, you know, we are then we have been since World War II, if not before, actually, even before, we have been the indispensable nation. And the part that is just disgusting to me is that we are no longer, I mean, we are still the indispensable nation in that everybody's relied on us for all these years, but we're no longer a reliable partner. I guess, and I can't believe I'm saying this as an American, this is a wake-up call for everybody here from Britain, everybody here from Australia, people from Canada.
Yeah.
You got the wake-up call to you. You got to step up because we're not to be trusted anymore.
No, I hate to. It's a really horrible thing to have to admit to yourself, admit to others, and say out loud. But it is
As an American, as an American,
as an American, and it doesn't mean that we're ashamed or not proud to be Americans, because we are. But we are ashamed of the people who are running our government, and that is a big difference. And it is shameful what these people have been allowed to do, and their entire political party, which is in charge of all three branches of our government, have rendered themselves completely useless and handed all the levers of power to Donald Trump and his people. I mean, it really has.
Where's Lindsey Graham?
Right. Lindsey Graham, who used to care so much about Russia and so much about Ukraine. Marco Rubio, same thing. I mean, Marco Rubio is one of the senators on the Republican side who was like the anti-Russian war hawk. And look at him now.
And they've cut out the best part of this, which is just best in quotations. They've cut out the State Department. They've cut out the CIA. The CIA had no idea that they're talking about trading, basically not hostages, but they're basically, we arrest Russians, they arrest Americans, and we kind of, usually that's done through the CIA, apparently, those exchanges. They've been cut out. This is being negotiated by Steve Wickoff, who's Trump's golfing buddy.
Right.
And Jared Kushner, who's a doorknob. He's a doorknob. I've known Jared since he was a little kid. He is a doorknob. He is.
It's Julie, you've lived so many lives. It is so like you've lived so many lives.
But when he was, because I knew Charlie was, people don't realize this, Charlie was a huge big Democratic donor. He was in the early 2000s. Charlie Kushner was the largest Democratic donor in New Jersey politics before he went to prison.
What is a doorknob?
What is a doorknob?
An inanimate object that you put your hands on to turn and open doors. I mean, I guess.
I use that expression all the time as like somebody.
Right. He doesn't strike me as being a particularly bright person. And this is where I also, recommend to people to go back and watch Alex Gibney, who's an incredible documentary filmmaker. He's done the one about Scientology. He's done a bunch. He made undercover, like very quietly under the radar, made a documentary during 2020, during COVID, called Totally Under Control. And it's about the Trump administration's handling of the pandemic. And there is a huge part of the story about Jared Kushner and how Jared Kushner was put in charge of like the supply chain and dealing with all this stuff. And it was just meetings about meetings about meetings. They got nothing done. They never really intended to get anything done. These are not serious people. And they, much like everybody else in this administration now, all of the grown-ups have left the room. And there's just a bunch of sycophants and greedy grifters in their place. And Jared Kushner is one of them. And, I can't sleep at night really, knowing that people like Jared Kushner are in charge of
it right now. I swear on all that is holy, if the next president of the United States does not indict Pete Hegseth for murder and does not prosecute Steve Wickoff and Jared Kushner for self-dealing, whatever the hell this federal statute is, and basically treason.
Yep.
I'm not interested. Like, I'm not interested. I want justice. This is not about revenge. This is justice.
Yep. And that's one of the things too. And I actually didn't realize last night when I was talking to my sister-in-law, my father-in-law was in the comments, like sending questions on screen. I was throwing them up and like not even knowing that it was him. But, one of the questions he had asked was about, if there was a pardon, or like, can the Democrats do anything to undo a pardon or anything like that? And I think at the end of the day, that this is a big part of why people give up. right, is because we know that these pardon powers exist, that the president can, with the stroke of a pen, uh, absolve people from their crimes. And so the American people look at this and the lack of justice, and they lose hope. People lose hope, and morale in moments like this in our history are so important. People have to feel like there's some sort of mechanism in which the bad guys will see their day, in court or with justice or whatever it is. And I think that's when you watch the bad guys get away with this stuff over and over and over, and then you see 70 million of your fellow Americans vote this shit back in. It's hard. It's hard. It's really hard.
And going back to what I missed yesterday when you and Jacqueline Urso did a Daily Dispatch.
Mm-hmm.
But, Hegseth is going on this killing spree in order to, I guess, protect us from drug dealing in the Caribbean, right? Well, on March 8th, 2024, Juan Orlando Hernandez, the former president of Honduras, was convicted in federal court here in New York. It's not here because I'm not in New York, but in New York City, of conspiring to import cocaine into the United States. Okay? He conspired, according to the Justice Department, for which he was convicted, with some of the largest drug dealers, drug traffickers in the world to transport tons of cocaine through Honduras, the United States. You know what Donald Trump did yesterday? He pardoned him.
It's like he's trolling us. I'm serious. Like, I think that was the timing of that was a giant troll. Or maybe they're just dumb, or maybe it's both. But like the fact that this story, I know. And it's just, and this is where, again, this Venezuela boat situation is not getting any better. It is not going away. We will continue to talk about this, hopefully with retired Lieutenant Colonel Urso, who's my sister-in-law. I know that this is something that interests her, especially now being on the other side, having retired last year, something that she wants to talk about this because it seems so unfathomable. And, George Conway, I think, was on MSNBC this morning saying, like, it's not a war crime because we're not at war. But, even if we were at war, it would be a war crime. Everything about this, domestic law, international law, there's a million different reasons. And some, bot or whatever is like up my ass on Twitter yesterday about this, being like, shut the F up. People I know have been killed by cartels. And I'm like, first of all, you are not a real person. Second of all, it wouldn't matter. It doesn't mean that you just blow boats out of the water. That's just not how it works.
I'm sorry. So by that rationale, Pete Hegseth could drop a bomb or missile on this house right now because he could accuse me of whatever he wants to accuse me of, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, where's the due process? Where is the due process?
It doesn't exist anymore. I mean, look what we're doing to immigrants. Look at what we're doing to legal residents of this country who are here on green cards and otherwise. I mean, now Donald Trump is threatening to reverse migration, which is to basically kick out anybody in this country who has come here legally and has been naturalized and maybe doesn't fit his narrative. People like Julie.
Oh, yeah.
He's threatening to deport Julie, who's been here since 1981.
Where is he deporting me to? That's what I want to know.
Right. Well, and that's the thing now. This is what wonderful person Stephen Miller, part of his strategy, he and Tom Homan, is to deport people, if not back to their own countries, to different countries where they have some sort of, weird corrupt relationship with whomever is running that government.
He tweeted on Thursday night on Truth Social that he would denaturalize migrants who, quote, undermine domestic tranquility, unquote, and remove people from the country who are, quote, non-compatible with Western civilization. What exactly is undermine domestic tranquility? Saying that Donald Trump should not be president, he's a disgrace to the nation. I guess that would undermine domestic tranquility. And so far, I'm stirring people up in this chat to agree with me. So do I get denaturalized, Mr. President? Do I get sent back to Russia where I'll eventually, if I land there, I'm banned from setting foot there. I guess I'll be sent straight to the gulag or wherever.
Yeah.
Like, where are you sending me back to?
Mm-hmm.
Denaturalizing, first of all, it is impossible to denaturalize somebody. The only
Under
the law, the only way you can denaturalize somebody is if they lied on their
that's the next step in the first they came for this and then they came for me kind of thing. Like we're getting closer and closer and closer to they came for me. And if you're in one of those groups, like you're getting closer. And this is the part also, like in all of these authoritarian regimes throughout history, this is what these people do. This is what these strongmen and what these authoritarians and fascist dictators do is like they eventually run out of people. And, much like at the end of the Washington Post reporting yesterday that said, at least for now, there's nothing that we can do about this except for public and political pressure. And those are the two things that we do have control over. So when it comes to this denaturalization and like all this other like nonsense and garbage, and whether it's the murder that our country is committing against fishing boats in the Caribbean, we have to continue to pick up the phone and ring their phones off the hook, make them not be able to ignore this. Because listen, they would all love to stick their heads in the sand and not deal with this. They don't want to deal with this. None of them want to deal with this.
And Yuck Fu, you said he cannot denaturalize anyone threat. Says who? The Supreme Court?
Who's going to stop him?
Who's going to stop him?
Roberts. Because again, John Roberts' Supreme Court has made a decision that Donald Trump or the executive, the president, as long as it's an official act, it's not illegal. Even if it breaks laws, it doesn't matter because of who does it. It's not illegal. That doesn't apply to everybody else, but he can just pardon them on their way out the door. And again, to undo pardon powers or to at least
you need a constitutional amendment.
Them, you would need a constitutional amendment because it is part of the Constitution that was put in the Constitution by the founding fathers. And so there's really not, it is something that's very it's very strange thing for a democracy, I would think, to have such a powerful action by an executive. But here we are 250 years in and no one's really in the way. What was it, like 2000? Isn't it 2000 pardons that he's
I don't know, but think about this. He's going to let's say he thinks I whatever he said about domestic tranquility, right? Mm-hmm. Harm tranquility. They show up, they put me on a plane and they send me back to Russia. Who by the time this gets where am I going to sue from? The gulag? Right. Like, okay. And then, my husband, who's a lawyer, is going to file a lawsuit and then it'll get to John Roberts eventually. And they either agree to take the case or not. But let's say they agree to take the case and John Roberts says, yeah, this isn't legal. And then the United States has to repatriate me back. You think Vladimir Putin's giving me back? I just set foot in Russia illegally. I just broke Russian law. Yep. I'm in the gulag now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm looking at the number. So Joe Biden in his 4 years, in terms of clemency, I think it was 4,245. He holds the record of 4,245 clemency actions. Trump in his second term is well over 2,000 just in his first year of his second term, 1,600 of which, right, are the January 6th insurrectionists, which, and he's going out on a limb saying that, he's going to decide that anything that Joe Biden did via auto pen doesn't matter anymore. And he's undoing them all. Yet am I supposed to believe there that on January 20th, he sat at his little desk and signed 1,600 pardons? I don't think so. So, once again, full of shit. And there's another thing that I wanted, speaking of just like saying and doing crazy shit, we need to keep our eye on this as well. Donald Trump on Truth Social and on Twitter last night or this morning, maybe it was this morning, I have no sense of time anymore, said to all airlines, pilots, drug dealers, and human traffickers, please consider the airspace above and surrounding Venezuela to be closed in its entirety. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. Republicans Against Trump Twitter account asks the question that I think we should all be asking ourselves: is the war about to start? Trump has announced that the airspace above and around Venezuela is now, quote, closed in its entirety. It certainly feels like it. Somebody asked Jacqueline yesterday also, oops, why do I keep doing that? Asked her, you know, are these the drums of war? This is going to be like a boots on the ground situation soon. And she was like, yeah, probably. They're certainly signaling that.
By the way, Aruba is very, very close to Venezuela. So I would be immensely cracking up if all of these people who are vacationing on Aruba for Christmas now have to cancel their plans because Donald Trump decided he's going to go to war in Venezuela.
Right.
Could we talk a little bit about what we talked about last week, which is the newsy Lisa gossip?
I need people to make fun of. Everything's so stinking heavy, Julie. And first of all, just in case anyone's wondering, Tara has a house full of her husband's family this morning. They're making breakfast and they're probably singing and dancing and doing mac and cheese dances and having a grand old time. And so that's why she's not with us today. So I just want people to know that. And it's, you know, we certainly wouldn't expect anyone to walk away from their fun family plans to talk about this stuff. And JoJo has family time as well. So it's just Julie and I here today. And here we are talking about this very heavy stuff that we seemingly cannot escape. So that is why, Julie, that is why I need Political People magazine in the form of Ryan Lizza's Substack.
Oh, all right. I'm going to sit back. I'm going to put my computer on my lap here. This doesn't really work for me. I can't do that. Bummer. So did people watch our Jeff Jarvis talk yesterday at 11 a.m. Eastern?
Which I'm cutting clips for right now. So those will be up.
If you did, you should, because it was so much fun. And we're going to do this every Friday at 11 now. You can also watch it.
I'm very grateful that he's like willing and
very grateful that he's willing to do this.
It's a great conversation. I feel like I learned so much.
He's so smart, and it is so cathartic to just bitch about.
Just to like bitch about these people because they quite frankly deserve it, most of them.
But like to sum up, so Ryan Lisa has released right before Thanksgiving a new installment in his revenge screw Olivia Newsy scheme. And this one didn't involve any terms that I was not familiar with before.
Didn't have to Google.
Didn't have to go to the Urban Dictionary
search. Yeah,
didn't have to go to the Urban Dictionary to learn about.
Mary Pike's asking, can you read it to us? And yes, we can. Yes, we can. Anne Marie, petty gossip is a great distraction. You betcha.
Not so petty though.
It does actually matter, but it feels good.
Yeah, but it's not so petty because, So
it's so tiny. God damn it! Why did I do this?
Well, we want to read the whole thing. It's very long. Read the whole thing.
Yeah, it is long. But
just to sum up,
that last part.
Basically, why don't we get to the last part because that part is relevant.
There it is. There it is. So why don't we summarize up until that point, and then we can throw it back.
So to summarize, clearly he recorded his girlfriend. I don't know where Michelle went. She just left.
Keep doing that. I keep hitting the wrong button. So sorry.
That's okay. So to summarize, and Michelle can do a dramatic reading of the last part. Michelle, all those years of acting school, it's fine.
Listen, my BFA comes in handy during these times to dramatically read Donald Trump tweets and Ryan Lizza's Substack. I mean, that's why I'm here.
Yeah, but to summarize his Substack, and sorry, Ryan Lisa, I know you want people to read this beyond the paywall, but this is too good not to. Basically, clearly, he recorded everything Olivia Newsy told him because otherwise he wouldn't be publishing this because she would sue him for defamation. But he's got the goods, and he said that Olivia Newsy had gone from, because of her weird relationship with Robert F. Kennedy Jr., with whom she became completely obsessed. She had gone from being a reporter to being effectively a political operative on his behalf. And what that meant was that, you know, he had a very small campaign. So she got close to people on the campaign, and they thought that she was a reporter and they would leak to her. And instead, what she would do was get information out of them that they wanted to leak to her or to other reporters. She would basically say, I'll, you know, leak it to me first. They would give it to her. She would kill the story.
Right.
And then tell Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who was leaking on his campaign. So not only would she catch and kill the story, but she also gave up her sources. I must say, as a political operative, that is horrifying to consider. Like, I've never thought about who the person who I'm leaking to might be sleeping with or otherwise have a personal relationship with, and whether they would sell me out. I guess now I have to start thinking about that, but that's kind of crazy. So that's one. Two, she apparently was trying to get to broker this deal with RFK Jr. Well, before we get to that, two, she was doing everything she could during the primary to undermine Biden. So she was the one that, if you remember, broke the dam on how Biden was.
Yeah, couldn't recognize or didn't know the name of a mega donor. There was a story that was written by her about this, basically making Joe Biden out to be this like drooling, senile man. And she didn't have solid proof of this. And somebody asked her about this, and Ryan Lizza talks about this in this Substack. And when asked about it, she says, quote, "Well, I just Michael Wolfed it."
Yeah.
Meaning from before, he's gotten in a lot of trouble because he wasn't properly sourcing and wasn't using named sources to make these claims. And so she's basically like, well, I exaggerated.
Yeah. So basically
consequential reporting
because it broke the dam on everybody else writing stories about how Biden was,
Joe Biden, man. I listen, Joe Biden old. Yes. Okay. However everybody feels about whether he should or shouldn't have. Not important here, not relevant, but my heart breaks for that man in ways that I cannot even describe. How he has been treated by members of his own party, people that he trusted, and most importantly by the American media, making him out to be some sort of like completely brain dead, old person. Like it's just when Donald Trump, yet again, day after day gets away with being a completely mentally ill, unstable monster inside the Oval Office. Whatever. We've talked about this.
We've talked about the mainstream media, but
it's infuriating. It makes me so mad.
Yeah, anyway. So she broke the dam, and then everybody else, including Jake Tapper, is like, "Oh yeah." Anyway,
it also, by the way, just really quick, it also hurt Kamala Harris, that reporting. Because then the questions began. Kamala Harris, what did you know? Did you know that he was doing this? What did you prop up? And then it started to discredit her. And so this one story broke the dam that really, in a lot of ways, elected Donald Trump.
Yep. And so that's true. But she was doing that on behalf of RFK Jr., with whom she was having whatever this weirdo affair was that she was having with him. And then three, she wanted to broker a deal between Trump and RFK Jr. when RFK Jr. was dropping out, because it would make RFK Jr. more relevant and eventually make him Secretary of Health and Human Services. So she decided that she was going to do what she could to broker that deal. And she was trying to figure out where Trump's head was with respect to RFK Jr. So she sent a sketch artist who was the same sketch artist from Trump's trial,
who was drawing pictures of him that he liked.
He liked the pictures that she was drawing of him at that trial. So he liked the sketch.
Like one of your French girls. Yeah.
She hired the sketch artist to go down and do a sketch of Donald Trump for some stories she was working on. But Trump didn't want Olivia to come down while the sketch was happening. So she planted a tape recorder, in the sketch artist's bag. And the question for the sketch artist is, were you aware that you were recording Donald Trump? Probably yes, because somebody has to press play.
Yeah.
And I might add, this is the same sketch artist that Vanity Fair just hired, where Olivia Newsy is currently working to do a semi-nude portrait of Olivia Newsy for their Hollywood issue. Why in the world is Olivia Newsy in the Vanity Fair's Hollywood issue? She's not Julia Roberts, but she's now editor of Vanity Fair, so I guess she just decided she was going to do this for herself. And Michelle, I'd like you to read the kicker from Ryan Reynolds. Sorry, Ryan Liza.
Wish it was Ryan.
Because it is going to blow your mind, and we could talk about what he's implying.
Yep. Okay, so we start where Olivia was excluded, right? From Trump told her she couldn't come to this Paint Me Like One of Your French Girls, okay? But Olivia was excluded from Izzy's key session with Trump.
Sorry, Izzy is the sketch artist. Go ahead.
Yes, Isabel or Izzy, yeah. Izzy for short. That's all we need to know here. Izzy's key session with Trump at Mar-a-Lago. And so Olivia adjusted the plan. She sent Izzy inside Trump's Palm Beach compound with a recorder in her bag, which rolled as Izzy drew Trump, who was taking campaign meetings with the likes of Matt Gaetz, Susie Wiles, and others. With any luck, Olivia would capture some great material for her piece and some intel for Bobby as he negotiated the endorsement. According to Olivia, when Izzy left the session, Izzy was hung up on something she believed Trump might have said about Butler, Pennsylvania. Something explosive that, if she were correct, would shatter our understanding of recent history. Now, that's the cliffhanger here. And Ryan Liza is very good at the cliffhanger because he knows that we're all sitting around waiting for part 4. And what does this mean? Is he implying that it's staged, that something that part of the official story is not true? Which part of it's not true?
Well, I will tell you this. God bless Ryan Liza. I don't begrudge him making some money on the Substack.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah.
I do it too. But if he's been sitting on this shit for the last year and change, this was staged, and he did not say so at the time while working wherever he was working at Politico or whatever else he was doing in life, and allowed that to go forward, and for Donald Trump to get elected, and for Robert F. Kennedy Jr. to become Secretary of Health and Human Services, and none of this came out. And as a result, millions of people are dying, and many more will die because of this bullshit administration. Because he wanted to wait a year and a half to get revenge because it's dish best served cold, and to see when the best time to screw Olivia Newsy.
I'm going to wait for her to emerge from her self-imposed, exile to re-enter the profession. And so then I can strike. And that's what he's doing. And listen, and as we said yesterday, nobody comes out of this looking good. Not Ryan, not Olivia, not anybody. There are no heroes in this story. And listen, I am not implying here, Julie is not implying here that anything was staged, okay? Do the things—
He's implying it.
Do things add up? Do I have questions? I certainly do, especially that his ear looks perfectly fine. Even though everybody put maxi pads on their heads during the RNC, which is just, it's a cult, guys. But I just want to touch on this only because of the psychology of this. Mary Pike says, what if someone was killed during a staged assassination? And they were. Now, let's say, and I'm not suggesting this, but let's say in some scenario there was an assassination attempt where someone got killed. Donald Trump is not the kind of person who gives a shit. These are the kinds of people who will sacrifice normal Americans for their own good. And they have indirectly already. And I'm talking about the 600,000 people who've died because of USAID. I'm talking about the 1 million Americans who are dead from COVID because Donald Trump mishandled the pandemic. The list goes on. What's going on with healthcare right now? There is a long list of millions of Americans who have died, will die because of the mismanagement of Donald Trump's government. That being said, yes, this is that something like that would be a very direct result. But I still don't think that he would care. I really don't. I really don't. So the psychology of that is, this is where I'm like,
And let me just say this. Olivia Newsy then in September goes down to Mar-a-Lago because she's doing a profile of him for New York Magazine in the midst of all this shit. And she inspects his ear. And this was the assassination attempt was in July. This happened in September. So July, August. So 2 months later. And during her inspection, this is what she said. The specific spot Trump identified where he got shot was, she quote says, pristine. She said the rest of the ear appeared, quote, normal and incredible and fine. She said there was a minor distortion that resembled not a crucifixion wound, but the distant aftermath of a sunburn on a tiny patch of skin. And Trump told her that he had, quote, pretty much recovered and, quote, was a fast healer. And then Ronnie Jackson, his former White House physician / now current congressman / sycophant,
and
the wound was a, quote, half moon shape and there was nothing to stitch because this bullet had scooped off some skin and fat. Okay. This is my ear. If a bullet went through it or grazed it, you better believe it would take off a chunk of it.
Yeah.
And there would be a scar.
Yeah. I mean, think about getting your ears pierced. You know what I mean? Like, and that's a different part of the ear, but like you put a hole in the lobe of your ear and it doesn't close.
So let me say this. I never wear earrings. I just stopped. I don't know why. I just stopped wearing them years ago.
Yeah.
Right? I don't even know if I still can get an earring.
I'm sure you can.
I don't know because it's been so long. It might have closed up.
Yeah.
The point is, not that you can see it from here, but if you looked at my ear, it would see the hole. I pierced my ears when I was like 8.
Yeah.
It's been like 45 years and there's still a scar / a hole.
Right. Exactly. And so if something like a bullet,
and that's a
bullet from 2024, the year of our Lord, which if people know what modern ammunition does to the human body, it's or if you've had a mole removed from your body, you know what I'm saying? Like anything, like you have anything removed and it leaves something. So again, a bullet traveling at God knows what speed past your head and apparently clips. And again, like you can Google photographs of people who've
blood. Obviously, it didn't just graze. There's blood coming out. Cartilage does not grow back. It's like, what are you talking about here? Like, why are we supposed to believe this shit? I mean, medically, I will be the first to say I almost failed out of 9th grade biology, so I'm not the expert to ask about this. But I think medically, this is not possible. I
just don't think so. And this is again where like the myth of Donald Trump, right, with his followers, and this is the cult stuff where they all buy it and they all showed up at the RNC with the maxi pad on their head and they're like, oh, our Lord Jesus, Donald J. Trump and Donald J. Jesus Trump, and he healed and by the miracle of God. This is what these people think about him. I mean, like this is the art that they make of him where he's got like Jesus on him. Like even if he did have a thing, they'd be like, oh, well, he's healed because, he's chosen by God. And like, people are nuts and they believe all this shit. But like, again, everything that we know about Donald Trump, everything we know in the Epstein files, which again, something that he doesn't want us talking about or thinking about, everything we know about his business dealings and the credible accusations of rape and sexual assault for years and years and years and years, nothing about this seems
yeah, and let's see what Ryan Lisa comes up with next. But what I find incredibly insane about all this is that, well, first of all, he's right. This is not a story about sex at all.
It's a detail that you kind of have to know about in order to have. My dad actually just texted me. I had surgery for cancer on my ear and still have a scar. He had like a basal cell on his.
You know what? My husband, same thing. My husband had on his ear, right here, same thing. And he's got a tiny bit of a scar.
It's normal.
And that's not a bullet traveling. That's not a bullet traveling at whatever speed.
Correct. Correct. Correct.
So anyway, I don't know what's happening there. We'll see what Ryan Lees has to
Yeah,
say.
so we'll see what he has to say. And yes, the salacious sexual details here are salacious, but they are detailed that I think you kind of have to at least know about. Like, there's something just so kind of disgusting about it that it's like you kind of have to be disgusted to then go further into the story and understand the depths of that all of this is. But again, like, you know, I invite people to go back and watch our conversation with Jeff Jarvis, where we dive into this further, just with the ethics and like what is happening with journalism and how access journalism really has led us to this terrible moment. And so go back and listen to that. It's just from a couple days ago. If that one was it. Oh my God, it was yesterday. Jesus Christ. It was yesterday. No concept of time. 50 Shades of Newsy. That's funny. It is. It kind of is.
But I gotta say also, we talked about this with Jeff yesterday, like Condé Nast, if by Monday morning at 9 a.m. this woman is still working for you, come on.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Julie, before we head out this morning, there's one more person that I'd like to make fun of, if you don't mind.
Would love to.
Who is also, unfortunately, a person who matters, not because she has been elected or appointed or done anything to earn that right. It's because she is the wife of Immigration Foreign Policy Advisor, I don't know what his official title is, Stephen Miller. His wife, Katie Miller, is equally horrible, maybe a little bit better looking, but equally horrible in her morals and her tone of voice and her shrillness. And all I can say about Katie Miller is that she has been platformed and given enough money to then start a podcast, which, by the way, she had Mike Johnson and his wife on the other day. Oh. And please, I invite everyone to go watch the clips of this, because his wife kind of touches him and he like recoils.
Also,
it's great. The body language is
about how hard his life is, and it's like, oh, poor you. Your life.
Oh, yeah, right. It's like, shut up, Keebler. And so Katie Miller has been given this kind of glossy platform to start her platform, to normalize her. I think there was a thing about what was her name, the Mrs. Goebbels. Joseph Goebbels' wife made good strudel. There's like because they're trying to soften her image, right, to make it more palatable for us, and then which then humanizes Stephen Miller, but that's just not possible. In fact, I would argue that her being platformed has shed more light onto how horrible she is. But I have gone through Twitter and other platforms, and of course, MAGA's just going crazy for her, like, oh, she's mean.
It's also sorry, but before we get to that, I haven't seen this clip yet. I got to say, somebody who goes on, well, I used to go on Abby Phillips' show, then Scott Jennings had me banned. But so this disgusting platforming that Abby Phillips does, and she does it more than anybody else, of like the worst people on earth to try to humanize them, whether it's Scott Jennings or it's Katie Miller, or back when I mean, like the number of Ben Ferguson, all these people, like you're literally, and it's not like we have to hear from both sides.
Yeah.
You're platforming people who say the earth is flat.
Correct.
Why don't you platform people who say the earth is round, with whom people like me disagree, and then we'll have a debate about it? You're humanizing by putting them on TV and giving them hair and makeup and making them look all good and glam and giving them the CNN stamp. You're humanizing them and what they're doing. And do you not think they're going to come for you? I mean, like, does Abby think she's a journalist by doing this?
Well, this is the other thing. And Katie Miller has been quoted about this, just FYI. She said that someone told her, because about the kids in cages and like, you know, the rounding up of immigrant children and things. Somebody said to her, once you have children, you will see this differently. And she said, but then I had children and I don't feel differently about this. I don't know why, but I just don't. And I'm like, it's because you're a psychopath.
You're a psychopath. My God.
You're married to a psychopath.
I am a mother. And if somebody separated me from my son and I couldn't see him, I like, you want to
becoming a mother, growing life inside of her did not change her perspective on this at all.
This kid is like another limb for me. Like, I would rather chop off a limb than be separated from him. That is what mothers feel about their children.
Yep.
Cats feel this way about their children.
Yeah.
Human notion.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Like, come on.
So I'll say that, you know, Abby, I think she says a lot of things about, you know, how she platforms people or if she platforms people, and sometimes it's out of her control and it's the network and this, that. So Tennessee Holler tweeted this, says, when CNN is criticized for platforming Smug, Scott Jennings, and others, the response is Abby Phillip has no control. But she tells Charlemagne the God on the Breakfast Club it is her call, explains her thinking. So I just want to show this clip. She was on the Breakfast Club recently.
Are very easy to be like, well, she shouldn't give this person a platform. She shouldn't do this. She shouldn't do that. I do think it's super easy to say that when you're just at home, like watching the clips on your phone.
Yeah.
I've been covering politics a long time. This is a time in our like political life where we have to really know what's going on. We have to know what everybody is saying on all sides of the issue, because I don't think that ignorance has served anybody well. I get a lot of criticism from the left, from people who are like, why does she have MAGA people on the show? And it's like, well, you should know what they're saying.
Yeah.
I agree.
Half the country voted for Trump. It's not helpful to be completely unaware of what is happening in those media ecosystems. I personally think it's super important. I want the debate. I want it to be right there out in the open. It's important for people on both sides to practice being challenged, how to deal with that, how to counter it, how to be quick, how to respond. A really important skill in our politics that we can go back and forth on the issues. I'll take the criticism from all sides, but I am very proud of what we do because I think that very few people are willing to do it. Very few people are willing to take the chance of even being criticized. I don't mind it. That's part of the job. Because I'm the host, I can draw those lines around the kind of conduct that I will accept at the table. And I have control over who shows up and who doesn't. There are definitely people who cross the line.
Give us an example.
And that's okay. I mean,
I think I know one. Jillian Michaels.
well, yeah, there was Jillian Michaels crossed the line in the sense that she said something that was kind of embarrassing. And we addressed it, but we never said to her, you're not welcome back. She made a decision not to want to come back. But there was another incident with a person who was on the show who said to another guest, a Muslim guest, that their pager would go off.
Said that to Mehdi.
To Mehdi. It was a reference to the Israeli bomb materials in pagers, Houthi terrorists, and they went off. That was an actual line that was crossed. You wishing death on a guest on the show is completely unacceptable. And I said publicly on the show, he was not invited back. There are lines that are crossed, and I think people understand that I'll draw them when they need to be drawn. We want to have real conversations. Sometimes they get a little bit messy, and that's okay.
So could I just say something about that? She mentioned Jillian Michaels. That was me.
Right. Just so people know, like on that panel talking to Jillian Michaels.
I was the one who challenged her before Abby did. I was the one who challenged her. And I've never seen that clip before, Michelle. I'm glad to hear they invited Jillian Michaels back, and she said no. I have never been invited back since for challenging Jillian Michaels and Scott Jennings on the same show. I have never. That's not true. They actually asked me to come at the very last minute. Can you do a Friday show? Because I guess somebody bailed and they needed somebody in New York, and I said no. But I used to be on that show once a week. Not since that day. So for her to say that she has no problem to see how people respond and having them challenged, anybody who challenges Scott Jennings in ways that he does not like is not invited back on that show. Me, and I can think of 3 other women off the top of my head. They're all women. So that's bullshit, Abby Phillip. I like her a lot on a personal level. She's
very smart. She's
very smart.
Yeah.
But that's bullshit. Because I have not been invited back because Scott Jennings complained in front of me to Abby. You see, this is what they do. This is what they do. You allow them to do this.
He called you a liar.
He called me a liar. And he said to her, I think it was either on air or during commercial break. I can't remember, but I was sitting next to him. This is what they do. You see, you allow this to happen. It was the day after Tara Setmayer went on.
Right. But you guys were on back to back and both challenged Scott Jennings.
Both of us challenged Scott Jennings. And I guess he was still hurt about what Tara did to him, so that when I did it to him the next night, you see, you allow this to happen. You allow this to happen. And I guess somewhere, either Abby, since she says she has control over who her guests are, so I guess
Right.
it's her decision. Abby must have said, okay, well, you know what? We're not going to allow this to happen anymore. We're not going to have women on who challenge Scott Jennings.
Yep. And I want to give props to Tennessee Holler. If you follow Tennessee Holler, across social platforms, really great at pointing these things out, connecting the dots, curating news in a way that helps us to understand the moment. And this was a really, really great flag by him/them today. So I want to thank them for that. But so she platformed Katie Miller.
Yep.
Last night, Friday, November 28th, Abby Phillip, I guess, no S. Abby Phillip platformed Katie Miller. And the response, this is another tweet from the Tennessee Holler. The reviews are in. They're all scathing. People online really, really angry. Because if there's something about Katie Miller, and I'm just going to say this, and you'll see this I have 2 clips. The first thing I'm going to say is that somebody told her somewhere in her life, sweetheart, you just have to keep saying your truth. And if you just keep repeating it, eventually, everyone will back down because they know you're right. She is loud and she is wrong, just like her husband is. She's loud and she's wrong, and she doesn't back down. Not in a way that is admirable, not backing down. She doesn't back down because she doesn't want to be told that she's wrong. And I think this is probably one of the first times that Katie Miller has been in an environment sitting across at a table or a panel being challenged by people who are academics and political strategists and others from the other side. She was on Piers Morgan recently, which, again, that show is just terrible. If you can even say that's a panel. I think that was probably her first experience wading into that, but it still was like Jerry Springer-esque, right? This was different. Bakari Sellers is sitting across from her. I'm going to play 2 clips. The first one I'm going to play is her talking about the Venezuelan boats. And she's saying that all of it's fine. I'm just going to play it.
In the end, I want to go back to something that Bakari said. He said that those orders that were given of the drug boats in Venezuela were illegal. Can you cite those statutes, please?
Yes, because it's actually called the Due Process Clause of the United States of America. Because can you point to one of those boats that actually had drugs on them? Do you know that? Do you know about the Trinidadians who were killed innocently, who were just fishermen? Can you actually kill those fishermen without due process? So the answer to the question is yes. I can cite the Constitution, just as Scott did.
If you go and say that those were members of Al-Qaeda or ISIS coming to our shores with enough drugs or enough ammunition to kill 100,000 Americans, wouldn't you expect our commander-in-chief to take action to stop that? That's what's happening here. That is what's happened, by the way. That's what happens in every war zone, whether you go to Iraq, Afghanistan, Iran, Somalia. Go there. Let's talk about it.
Give me one name of one individual that you can compare to Al-Qaeda coming through that had enough fentanyl to kill all these Americans. Can you name one?
Let's go to what these drug boats are talking about, which is that we are actively ensuring that the war on drugs that we've been doing for 50 years, which has not worked one single day.
Yeah, right. We can agree on that.
It hasn't been successful one day. So wouldn't you want our country to try something different? You talked about elections and why they're important. In 2024, President Trump won and beat Kamala Harris under stopping the war on drugs, under stopping the entrance of illegal drugs into our country, under stopping the surge of illegal immigration into our country. And that's exactly what he's done.
Can I just put a fine point on this?
Yeah, go
ahead. Just really quickly. I think that my point maybe differs from yours, which is fine. But I believe that individuals deserve some modicum of due process. And I think that is something that's enshrined in our Constitution. If you have some facts that you wanted to tell the audience tonight about the individuals that you know that were brought in or bringing in, and maybe if we arrested them, maybe if we actually saw what was going on, maybe if there wasn't an ulterior motive, because what I do know, and I think you know this as well, that there were innocent Trinidadians who were just on a fishing boat who died as a result of that. I know that they're military members that swore an oath to this country who now have a problem with that. So I
think you're cherry-picking facts.
The other part is that, we also know that the United States did have some of these people in custody, and rather than actually try them, which we have done in the past, we let them go. We also don't know, they've never said explicitly what drugs are being carried on these boats, but the fentanyl, we know, is not coming from Venezuela. The issue here is about the legality and about what happens when there is a system that doesn't contemplate whether things are legal or not. And the British seem to think that there might be things in our actions in the Caribbean that are illegal. We've had a top military officer resign from his post, retired years early. So there are some indications here that people are not comfortable with the legality of what's going on here.
And I will say this. Julie, first thoughts here?
My first thoughts are weak Bakari Sellers, because she just said something that was very critical. She said Iraq, Afghanistan, Iran. Are we at war with anybody right now? Because she said war zones, right? War zones. She said, this is like a war zone. We have a war on drugs. Did Congress declare a war?
Yeah, a war on drugs is like
war on drugs is
not a real thing.
Something that the Reagan administration came up with as a pithy little line.
Mm-hmm.
Did Congress declare war on Venezuela? Like everything she's like, you don't have to. I don't want to hear about the Trinidadians. I don't want to hear about the Venezuelans. I don't want to hear about fishing boats. It's very simple. You said that we are at war. Under what authority are we at war? Did we declare war on anybody? And if so, cite the act of Congress that declared war on Venezuela, because to declare war on somebody, you need an act of authority from Congress, or the president needs to justify to Congress why he did what he did, as he did with Iran. Where's the justification here? It hasn't happened. So if you're going to platform liars, Abby Phillip, you got to call them out as liars. You are lying about this being a war. There is no war happening right now. Please provide me with evidence that we are at war with these fishermen, or with Venezuela, or with Trinidad, who apparently were murdering their people too.
Yeah.
Or whoever the hell we're killing right now.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, that question wasn't posed because, fair and balanced. Now, there are people in this chat who are also dunking on Jessica Tarloff of Fox, and I want to just stick up for Jessica Tarloff of Fox really quickly. Jessie Tarloff of Fox is doing the Lord's work, because Jessie Tarloff is calling their bullshit out every day. And to the extent that people are watching Fox, even if she changes one person's mind or makes them think with an open mind, she has done the Lord's work. I don't want to put Jessie Tarloff in the same category here as what's happening over at CNN.
Yeah.
And maybe it's because I used to have her job before that, but Jessie Tarloff is doing an amazing job.
Yep.
She's really good at what she does. And she calls out their bullshit every single day. And you guys, until you sit around a table with 4 other people when they're piling up on you 24/7, I can promise you it's not easy.
Yep.
So
a lot of people come in our comments on social too, just trying to ding on Julie for even having worked at Fox or saying anything about her colleagues. And I honestly,
try it.
You try it. Right.
Not easy.
So there was that exchange where she's spewing a bunch of lies, and there's kind of like a very non-pushback, right? Not really. So then she goes on a tirade. She and Abby Phillip get into it about platforming Nick Fuentes or Tucker Carlson, and then she starts complaining that people call her and her husband Nazis. I'm going to play this. This is a little bit longer, so stick with us.
He can speak freely. It's about whether someone like Tucker Carlson, who is a very powerful force in the conservative movement.
You host people on your show all the time who call my husband and myself a Nazi. So how is that any different from Tucker Carlson going on? Nick Fuentes having Tucker Carlson on his show? It's not different.
He's actually
He's anti-Semitic.
a Hitler admirer. Nick Fuentes is actually a Hitler admirer.
But he literally is not a good
That is a different thing.
Excuse me, you have Jennifer Welch on your show very often, and you've never pushed back as she has called my husband a white nationalist.
Hold on.
That is no different than Nick Fuentes going on Tucker Carlson's show. It's not, and you should admit it.
Well, hold on. How is it anything similar? It's not remotely similar at all. Nick Fuentes sits around and says that he likes Hitler. How is that similar
What does Katie have to do with it? What does she have to do with it? She has nothing to do with it. Literally nothing.
Scott, Katie is the person who just said to me that it is comparable to say that Nick Fuentes, who is literally a neo-Nazi, is the same as somebody, a liberal, who has an opinion who is not a neo-Nazi.
A hateful
They are
opinion.
not
A hateful opinion.
the same.
How do you want? Excuse me.
Hold
Just
on.
let's go back to
They
this
are
point one more
not-
time.
but
Nick
Katie,
Fuentes
it
can
is
espouse an
not
opinion on
the
Tucker Carlson's
same-
show.
it is not the
and
same
he didn't push
thing.
back the same way you didn't push
Katie.
back when someone called someone in
Okay,
my family
hold
a
on a
Nazi.
second.
It's not different.
Hold on a
Abby.
second.
It's not.
If someone comes on this show and says, I love Hitler and I admire what he did, they would never, first of all, I would never invite them on the show and they would never be invited back. So those two things are
But yet
not
you've gone on Jennifer
the
Welch's
same
podcast. It's the same thing.
They
It's
are
the same
not
thing.
the same thing.
What I find
okay?
so- what I find
Listen,
so
but
interesting-
Katie, but hold on, Katie.
No, we can
Do you
agree to
believe that
disagree.
Jennifer Welch has a right to say something negative about your husband?
The same way Nick
Do you-
Fuentes has the
but
right
hold
to
on.
say what he wants
so
to
you
say.
think
No
Nick,
difference.
you think that it's okay? Hold on. Do you think it is okay for Jennifer Welch? Is she allowed to say something negative about your husband?
Absolutely, and it's your job as
Okay.
the moderator then to push back.
So that's the first
It's the
thing.
same way you're asking Tucker
So now
Carlson
Nick
to push back against Nick Fuentes.
But hold on, Nick Fuentes.
Is it not different?
Nick Fuentes is espousing. He's not describing someone else as a Nazi. He is saying, I admire Nazis. You don't think that's a different thing?
Do you believe my
You don't
husband's
think
a Nazi? You allow
but
someone
do
on
you
your show
think
to
that
say
that's
it.
do you think those things are different or not?
I don't think
I believe
anybody
it's the
around
same
this
equitable
table
comparison.
believes.
So listen,
for Nick
I
Fuentes
just
to go
think-
on Tucker
I
Carlson's
just think
show
that
as
you
you
are
to have people to have on your show.
you are making a comparison of two things that are not in any way the same. I acknowledge and listen, when
It's
people
happened more than once, Abby.
But hold
so
on.
at one point, it's a
but hold
common
on.
occurrence.
When people say their opinions, I don't endorse them, but I also am not responsible for their opinions.
doesn't that apply to Tucker
That is
Carlson?
different from a person themselves describing themselves as a hate monger.
Is Tucker Carlson
And so
responsible
that
for Nick Fuentes' opinions?
So, but hold on a second. I am also not a Republican Party official or a Democrat Party official.
Neither is
and so
Tucker
I'm
Carlson.
asking you about you as a Republican and who you think is the leader of your party, right?
Right
and
now
I'm
it's President Donald
And
J.
I'm
Trump.
asking your opinion, okay? If you think that J.D. Vance is that person, do you think that he should be sitting at a table and nodding along with Nick Fuentes, yes or no?
I don't believe J.D. Vance has ever sat and nodded along with Nick Fuentes.
Do you
and that
think
would
that,
be,
do you
that
think
would
that
be gross
Tucker
for you to say he
Carlson,
did.
do you think it is okay for J.D. Vance to think it's okay for Tucker Carlson to sit and nod along with
I think it's okay
with
for
Nick
Tucker
Fuentes?
Carlson to have Nick Fuentes on the show the same way you have people on your show
that's
who
all
espouse similar
well,
views.
hold on, that's all I asked you, and we can just leave it at that. Because at the end of the day, that is what the Republican Party has to decide. Do they care whether or not someone who has a loud voice in their party is bringing on somebody who is encouraging neo-Nazism?
Wait,
and if you
do the
think that
Democrats not have to
okay,
decide?
Wait,
Because
if you think that's
they
okay,
vote all
then
sorts of
that's
things.
let's go
then
back.
that's
Let's
fine.
go
I mean,
back
I
to the
think
murder
that's
of
fine.
Charlie
Don't the
Kirk.
Democrats have to
Let's go
decide?
back to the
We can
murder of
just
Charlie
leave it
Kirk.
at
Should we?
that. So we have to leave it at that. Next.
I don't even know why we're bothering this.
I do. I mean, this is the first time that CNN and a show like that has platformed someone like Katie Miller.
Yeah, but my point is, I don't even.
It's the next level.
It's
honestly.
the next level, and
Scott Jennings sat there defending her too, by the way.
Well, yeah, but they're just sitting there having a debate as though one side is right and one side is wrong. One side is saying that Nick Fuentes is a neo-Nazi, and the other side is saying Jennifer Welch from the I've Had It podcast is accusing Katie Miller's husband of being a fascist or a Nazi, and therefore those two things are comparable. Like, that's what effectively I got out of that exchange, right?
Yep.
One person says A and the other person says B, and I'll be very curious to see if Jennifer Welch is ever back on that show, because I bet you she won't be.
Yep.
I bet you she won't be.
Yep.
Because somebody's now complained about Jennifer Welch. She hurt Scott Jennings' feelings and she hurt Katie Miller's feelings.
Right.
I don't know if Jennifer Welch will be back on that show.
Yep. Yep.
Maybe because she's got huge numbers and they'll want to use her, to juice their own numbers because CNN is failing and podcasts are not. But, that's the thing here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so grossed out because Abby is a smart person and she knows better. And by the way, Abby, don't refer to it as the Democrat Party. Come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yep. And it just shout out to Jennifer.
Wait, are you
Welch.
asking me if Scott gets paid for being on that set? Yeah, Scott gets
Yeah,
paid.
he's a salaried contributor.
He's a salary contributor. Gets
He
paid
has
a
a contract.
money, a lot of money.
And I just want to give a shout out to Jennifer Welch from I've Had It. I have long been a fan. Before it was cool to be a fan, before everybody else was. I enjoy her. She's an authentic truth teller and commentator. in this moment we're living in. And the reason that they are so triggered is because she's right.
She tells the truth.
She's right.
She tells
And they hate it. And she's a white, blonde, Southern woman. And everything about her tells them that she should be on their side, and she's not. And they can't stand it. So Jennifer Welsh, don't stop. Don't stop, please. We support you.
We support you 100%. I hope they have her back on. Probably not, because now, you know, Scott's probably going to complain about Jennifer Welch. I don't know if she was mean to Scott. The difference is you can't be mean to Scott.
She has been, yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, then she probably won't be.
Like in like a mean way, in like
by mean,
mean to him, by you
mean,
know,
she said
pushing back or
yeah.
telling
I mean, she pushed back on Scott, not that.
Yeah.
He actually was mean. Because nobody's actually mean to Scott. Scott is just a little.
No, he's a little bitch.
He's a little wuss whose feelings are hurt, and he's easily triggered.
Who looks older than he is.
He has his PR people plant all of this stuff to make him feel better and fluff him up in right-wing media about how Scott Jennings, every time Scott Jennings owned the lib, Scott Jennings never owned a lib in his goddamn life.
Mm-hmm.
Because what those people don't see is what I saw during commercial breaks is Scott complaining and texting, whoever the hell he's texting, whether it's the producer, and then complaining to the anchor about how you let them treat me this way.
Mm-hmm.
And the only reason I'm saying this publicly now is because I just saw Abby Phillip go on Charlemagne the God and pretend that she has no problem with people pushing back on each other at that table.
Right.
Well,
right.
yes, she does. I have not been back since. Ever since on the same show that I pushed back against slavery and then hurt Scott's feelings in a different segment, I have not been allowed back on, but I'm very happy to see that Jillian Michaels has been invited back. She's just chosen not to come back on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. Yeah. Listen, we watch so you don't have to. That's my motto on a lot of these things, whether it's Abby Phillip's show or Nick Fuentes' channel on Rumble. You know, we want to come here to the Mayday Network, and we are coming here on the Mayday Network, and this is what we're trying to build here to call this shit out and to call balls and strikes. I mean, that's the thing. Like we're here to shed light on the truth. And, you know, we might platform people that we don't agree with, but we're not going to let them come on here and lie. There's a huge difference between disagreement and lying.
100%. I have no problem having Republicans on. I spent 10 years of Fox debating them.
Mm-hmm.
But I will tell you, at least back when I was starting out there, we would argue over things like, should we go into Iraq? Should we not go into Iraq? We weren't arguing over
marginal tax rate, you know, but now it's like, is the earth flat?
Is that like we didn't debate whether Iraq actually existed on this earth.
Right.
Which is what's happening right now.
Can Donald Trump find Venezuela on a map? Probably not. But you know what I mean? But like he would probably go on there and be like, point to anywhere on the map. And then they have to argue about, is he right or wrong? Like that.
You know, and to platform Katie Miller, and I'm glad that Abby feels like, come on, you're not platforming Katie. They're platforming Katie Miller for two reasons. One is they want us to be all talking about it, which is why like for me, like, fuck that. I don't even want to talk about it.
Yeah.
But the other reason is they're trying to suck up to the Trump administration by giving
100%
Miller's wife a platform. And let me be clear. This is the part that pisses me off. This drives me insane. As soon as a Democrat is back in the White House, when that day should ever occur, all will be forgotten and forgiven. And the answer is it should not be forgotten and forgiven.
It should never. And everybody should remember that.
These people should live in ignominy.
Yeah, that's a good
Goodbye. Goodbye.
Yeah. Yeah. It's and just to remind people also, just as a refresher, Stephen Miller is the mastermind along with Tom Homan with this cruel, inhumane immigration policy that has people being ripped from the arms, children being ripped from the arms of their parents, being sent to detention prisons in countries that they are not from, ripping children from their schools. You know, we've seen the videos. We've seen the videos of what is happening, what ICE is doing. Stephen Miller is at the heart of this because he is running the country. in terms of our immigration and foreign policy. He is running the country for Donald Trump because Donald Trump's not doing, he's just saying, okay. Katie Miller agrees with him. And the reason that she is being platformed, another reason she's being platformed is the same reason they've given her this glossy podcast that whomever is funding that, to humanize him and to normalize all of this. And we have to continue to say no to that. And that is why, at least for me, it's important that we talk about her being platformed last night, because this stuff unfortunately does matter, because it's going to affect people's lives indirectly, but it's going to. And I also just want to remind people that the following people are in their 40s. Okay. Stephen Miller, Russ Vought, Brennan Carr, who's the FCC chair, and who was the other person? Who are we just shit talking? Oh, Scott Jennings. All of them are in their 40s. I just want to point that out. They could all use an SPF maybe. And
but what I'm so pissed off about is that it's fine. All will be forgiven as soon as this is over.
Yeah.
And no. And I want to be very clear. Scott Jennings would sit there and kiss my ass up until the day that Trump won re-election.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Sucked up nonstop.
Mm-hmm. See, this is why I wanted to tell people how old they were, because it's unbelievable. I know. I'm older than JD Vance and Stephen Miller.
Me too.
Unbelievable.
I know.
So we've been at this for a little while here. I welcome a day where we can talk about, what we ate for dinner or something.
Did everybody have a nice Thanksgiving? I hope we did.
I hope so, wherever you are. There's a really great channel on YouTube. I think everybody should go. I think it's called Jolly. And there's these two British guys, and they go and try food from all over the world. And there's this whole series where they bring American food to middle schoolers in England, to an all boys school. And it is honestly the funniest shit I've ever seen. It is just so wholesome. And what's that?
What do they bring? What kind of American
food?
Well,
the most recent episode, they had a chef from Mississippi go cook for these boys, and they're all in their uniforms for school. It's so cute, their little accents.
Yeah.
This chef from Mississippi makes for them a traditional Thanksgiving dinner, and none of these boys have had it before. So they're trying it for the first time. And it's the most wholesome thing. Go and watch it. I think it's called Jolly. But it's like British middle schoolers try American Thanksgiving. Go look it up. It's
do they like it?
Cute. Most of them, yeah. There was a couple of things that they didn't like the mac and cheese because they didn't like the crispy on top. They didn't like it.
Really interesting.
Yeah, they didn't like it. But a lot of them and they were very confused by the marshmallows and candied yams. They were those things don't go together. But then they would have a bite and you'd see their faces go, ooh. And actually, most of them did not like pumpkin pie.
Me neither.
They did not like pumpkin pie, but they did like the pecan pie.
Oh, I love a great pecan pie, but I hate pecan pie.
And one of them goes, pecan, is that a bird?
It's a pecan pie. So one of your great pumpkin pie story. So the first year that my husband and I were celebrating Thanksgiving together, well before we got married, he told me he loved pumpkin pie, and that his grandmother, Grandma Doherty, would make this incredible pumpkin pie. And so I got the pumpkin. I peeled the pumpkin. I from scratch made this pumpkin pie according to some crazy recipe I found. And it was an all-day thing. And he was like, this is absolutely disgusting. He's like, this is gross. And he literally gives me a can of Libby's pumpkin pie. And he goes, Grandma would make it from the back of the can.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess.
So now I make pumpkin pie from the back of the can, and he thinks it's the best gourmet pumpkin pie.
Well, some people prefer Kraft macaroni and cheese too.
My son, I live with two men who have the worst taste buds on earth. Disgusting, horrible taste buds, zero spice, zero adventure.
I would not be able to cook for them because all I do, I take a thing of garlic powder and put half the thing.
That's what I would typically do, but it's ridiculous. And yes,
yeah,
it was awful, awful, awful. All right. It is so nice for people to spend 2 hours with us today. Amazing.
Thank you. A lot to get to, but Here we are. And hopefully, Julie, I say this with love. I hope I don't see you again for the rest of the weekend, because that'll mean that there wasn't any,
Yes.
horrible breaking story. But I will say, and Julie, you can say, you can agree now or tell me later. Don't, shut up, Michelle. But if a new installment of the Ryan Lizza saga drops,
Oh, we'll
I
be
think
back.
we should jump back on. I
We'll
think
be
we should jump back on and do a daily dispatch just to dish and talk about that. And so that's why it's so important that you like and subscribe to the Mayday Network here on YouTube, because when we schedule these things out, sometimes they're only like 10, 15 minutes ahead of time. So you will be the first to know when we're going live with that information, the breaking news of Ryan Lizza's Substack. So, Julie, any parting words?
Hope everybody, it's cold, but I'm looking outside. Beautiful here.
Yeah, same here. Yeah.
Pennsylvania. I will be going back to New York today, sadly. I have to drive my little French cousin to the airport. So I'm going to just keep going and go back to the city, which I wish I didn't have to. I wish I could spend another day here, but I have to come back. Wednesday, Michelle and I'll do a cooking show for my kitchen here. It was going to be so nice if we can.
Yeah.
And what are you up to the rest of the weekend, Michelle?
I mean, I'm going to cut some more clips of the stuff we've done the last couple of days. So, go follow us on social. You can see the clips and share those around. But otherwise, I'm just going to be sitting around watching TV. My dad told me that he programmed the TV. There's a documentary that's on Arthur Shawcross, the serial killer, and he's going to watch that today.
Very nice.
Yeah. Well, because just as a quick aside, Arthur Shawcross, serial killer, terrible, terrible man, was a serial killer who killed a lot of people up where I'm from. And my grandfather was actually one of the police officers who helped to solve this.
Really?
And arrest him. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Really?
The police officer. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Somebody's saying The Americans is on YouTube for free. Really? It is?
Pray tell. Pray tell.
Where? Put the link in the chat.
Yeah, put the link in the comments after we're done broadcasting so that we can go back and find it.
Wow. Okay, good to know, because we want to do this, and hopefully everybody's going to do it with us.
And a lot of people have mentioned also in the comments of the videos from the last few days about our New York City thing that we were going to do. We had planned to do it, but unfortunately we had some family stuff come up that has kind of taken us away from doing new stuff, but we do plan on doing it at some point. So stay tuned.
We are definitely going to do it. Actually, if the weather gets nice, maybe we can do it. It's just been really cold, and it's supposed to get really snowy in New York this winter. Yeah. But maybe we'll do a Central Park one while it's not. Yeah, we'll figure it out. It's my fault. I've been.
No, it's not your fault. You got stuff going on, Julie.
I got stuff going on with my mom's health, so I've been having to deal with that. But so I apologize for that. But we will do it. Okay, everybody. Great to see you all.
Yep. We'll be back here 8 a.m. Eastern on Monday for the morning show. We are doing the very last Over It on Wednesday. Not because we don't love each other and don't like each other, just because everyone's so busy and we have our own new ventures going on. And so we're going to have to call it quits on Over It on Wednesdays, but we will always be here on Saturdays, Julie and myself, and maybe some others, we don't know. But Wednesday, tune in at 12 p.m. Eastern for that last show. So that's it.
Bye, everybody. See ya.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.